The unlikely romance between a Seattle corporate lawyer and a volunteer firefighter from a small mountain town reveals that sometimes love finds you exactly when you least expect it. But can two people from completely different worlds really build a future together? Elena Ramirez sits in her glass-walled office on the 32nd floor of a Seattle skyscraper, her fingers dancing across the keyboard as she reviews another multi-million-dollar merger contract. At 42, she has built her reputation as one of the city's most formidable corporate attorneys, known for her razor-sharp mind and unwavering determination. The city lights twinkle below as she works late into the night, her third cup of coffee growing cold beside stacks of legal documents. But success comes at a price. Elena's days blur together in an endless cycle of depositions, negotiations, and court appearances. Her apartment feels more like a hotel room, and she cannot remember the last time she had dinner with friends or took a vacation that lasted more than a weekend. The stress manifests in sleepless nights, tension headaches, and a growing sense that something essential is missing from her carefully constructed life. The breaking point arrives during a particularly brutal week, when Elena collapses during a board meeting, her body finally rebelling against years of relentless pressure. As she sits in the emergency room, staring at the sterile white walls, a nurse hands her a letter that arrived at her office. The envelope bears the name of a great aunt she barely remembers, and inside, she discovers that she has inherited a mountain cabin in the small town of Evergreen Ridge, 2 hours east of Seattle. Against the advice of her colleagues and her own better judgment, Elena decides to take an extended leave of absence. She packs her car with a few essentials and drives toward the mountains, leaving behind the world of corporate law for the first time in 20 years. As the city skyline fades in her rearview mirror, she feels a mixture of terror and relief that she has never experienced before. Evergreen Ridge greets her with snow-dusted pine trees and a main street that looks like something from a postcard. The inherited cabin sits on the edge of town, a rustic structure with a stone fireplace and windows that frame the surrounding mountains. As Elena struggles with the front door, which has swollen from years of mountain weather, she hears footsteps approaching. "Looks like you could use some help there," says a warm voice behind her. She turns to see a man in his mid-30s wearing a flannel shirt and work boots, his hands calloused from years of manual labor. This is Jake Thompson, captain of the local volunteer fire department and part-time carpenter, whose easy smile and genuine concern immediately put her at ease. "I'm Elena," she says, extending her hand. "I just inherited this place from my great-aunt." "Jake," he replies, his handshake firm and reassuring. "Your aunt was a wonderful woman. She used to bring cookies to the fire station every Christmas." He examines the stubborn door with practiced eyes. "This old wood expands in the winter. Let me show you the trick." With a gentle push in just the right spot, the door swings open, and Elena finds herself looking into Jake's kind brown eyes. There is something about his presence that makes her feel grounded for the first time in months, though she cannot quite put her finger on what it is. As the days pass, Elena begins to settle into the rhythm of small-town life, though it feels foreign after decades in the corporate world. She discovers that Jake is not just the fire captain, but also a pillar of the community, someone who fixes Mrs. Henderson's leaky roof without being asked and organizes fundraisers for families in need. His carpentry work is scattered throughout the town, custom cabinets in the library, a playground he built for the elementary school, and countless repairs that keep the community functioning. Elena finds herself drawn to Jake's workshop, where the smell of sawdust and the sound of his tools create a peaceful atmosphere that contrasts sharply with the sterile environment of her former office. She watches him work with wood, his movements precise and purposeful, creating beautiful and functional pieces with his hands. There is an artistry to his craft that speaks to something deep within her, a creativity that her legal career never allowed her to explore. "You know," Jake says one afternoon as he sands a piece of oak, "there's something therapeutic about working with your hands. When I'm building something, all the noise in my head just stops." Elena understands exactly what he means. For the first time in years, she is not checking her phone every few minutes or mentally rehearsing arguments for court cases. Instead, she finds herself helping Jake with small projects, learning to use tools she has never touched before, and discovering muscles she forgot she had. But their growing connection is complicated by the vast differences in their backgrounds and life experiences. Elena's world of corporate law, expensive restaurants, and high-stakes negotiations feels like a foreign language to Jake, while his community-centered life and hands-on approach to problem-solving challenges, everything she thought she knew about success and fulfillment. The tension comes to a head during a town emergency when a late-season snowstorm threatens to cut off power to the entire valley. Elena watches Jake spring into action, coordinating with his volunteer firefighters to check on elderly residents and ensure everyone has heat and supplies. She sees him risk his own safety to rescue a family whose car slid off an icy road, and she realizes that his quiet heroism puts her own achievements into perspective. "I don't understand how you do it," she tells him later as they warm up by the fire in her cabin. "You put yourself in danger for people you barely know." Jake looks at her with surprise. "They're not strangers, Elena. They're my neighbors, my community. When someone needs help, you help them. It's that simple." But it is not simple for Elena, who has spent her career in a world where every relationship is transactional and every favor comes with a price. She begins to question not just her career choices but her entire approach to life, wondering if she has been so focused on climbing the ladder that she forgot to build meaningful connections along the way. The conflict deepens when Elena receives a call from her law firm offering her a partnership, the goal she has worked toward for her entire career. The offer comes with a significant salary increase and the prestige she has always craved, but it also means returning to Seattle immediately and committing to an even more demanding schedule than before. Jake tries to hide his disappointment when she tells him about the offer, but she can see the hurt in his eyes. "I always knew you'd go back," he says quietly. "This place, this life, it's not enough for someone like you." His words sting because they echo her own fears about whether she can truly be happy in a small town, whether she can give up the ambition and drive that have defined her for so long. The partnership represents everything she thought she wanted, but the idea of leaving Jake and the peace she has found in Evergreen Ridge fills her with a sadness she did not expect. The decision becomes even more complicated when a forest fire threatens the town, and Elena sees Jake and his volunteer firefighters risk everything to protect their community. She watches from the evacuation center as Jake leads his team into dangerous terrain, and for the first time in her life, she understands what it means to love someone so deeply that their safety matters more than anything else. When Jake is injured fighting the fire, not seriously, but enough to require a hospital stay, Elena realizes that she cannot imagine her life without him. She sits by his bedside holding his bandaged hand, and finally understands that all her professional achievements mean nothing if she has no one to share them with. "I've been thinking," she tells him when he wakes up, "maybe success isn't about how high you climb or how much money you make. Maybe it's about finding something worth fighting for." Jake smiles weakly. "And what's worth fighting for?" "This," she says, gesturing between them. "Us, this community, a life that actually means something." But Jake is not convinced that Elena can truly be happy giving up her career. "You're used to boardrooms and million-dollar deals," he says. "What happens when the novelty of small-town life wears off? What happens when you start missing the excitement and the challenge?" Elena has been asking herself the same questions, but the fire has given her clarity. She realizes that she can use her legal skills to help the community in ways that feel more meaningful than any corporate merger. She can help families navigate insurance claims after the fire, assist small businesses with legal issues they cannot afford to address, and use her expertise to make a real difference in people's lives. "I want to open a practice here," she tells Jake. "Not corporate law, but real law, helping real people with real problems. I want to build something that matters." Jake's eyes fill with hope, but he is still cautious. "Are you sure? This is a big decision, Elena. You'd be giving up everything you've worked for." "No," she says firmly. "I'd be gaining everything I never knew I wanted." The final test comes when Elena's law firm makes one last attempt to lure her back, offering her an even more lucrative position and threatening to make it difficult for her to practice law if she refuses. For a moment, Elena feels the old familiar pull of ambition and fear, but then she looks out the hospital window at the mountains that have become her home and knows that she has already made her choice. She calls her former boss and politely but firmly declines the offer. "I've found something more valuable than money or prestige," she tells him. "I found a life worth living." 6 months later, Elena's small law practice is thriving, and she has never been happier. She and Jake have moved in together, combining her inherited cabin with his workshop to create a home that reflects both of their passions. She helps him with his carpentry business, handling contracts and legal issues, while he teaches her to work with her hands and find joy in creating something beautiful and useful. On a crisp autumn evening, as they sit on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson, Jake takes her hand and says, "I never thought I'd fall in love with a city lawyer." Elena laughs, leaning into his warmth. "I never thought I'd fall in love with a small-town carpenter, but I guess love doesn't always follow the plan." "No," Jake agrees, pulling her closer. "Sometimes it finds you exactly when you need it most." As the stars begin to appear in the clear mountain sky, Elena reflects on the journey that brought her here. She traded her corner office for a small-town practice, her designer suits for flannel shirts, and her lonely apartment for a home filled with love and laughter. She discovered that true success is not measured in billable hours or bank accounts, but in the connections we make and the lives we touch. And in Jake's arms, surrounded by the mountains that have become her sanctuary, Elena knows that she has found something more precious than any partnership or promotion. She has has found herself, and she has found home. Have you ever had to choose between career success and personal happiness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of love conquering all odds, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming tales that prove love really can be found in the most surprising places.